It's Thursday, and that means I've got a co-host with me. This week, Ashley Mann joins me to discuss everything going on in WWE. It all gets started right after this. Okay, so you guys love podcasts. You're listening to one right now. I've got a really good one for you. It's actually hilarious. It's called Shoot from the Hip. There are three co-hosts. It's Matt, Lancer, and Brian. They talk about ridiculous things like why knees aren't just called leg knuckles, some conspiracy theories, dealing with embarrassment, back to school. There are so many different topics that really are just crazy, but are really entertaining. And actually, they have 5 stars right now on Apple Podcasts. So I would really recommend that you check them out. They're absurd but hilarious topics. And new episodes drop every single week at sfthpodcast.com. And you can kind of tell this is going to be one of those shows that shoots quickly up the rankings. So get on board now. Check out Shoot from the Hip podcast. You can find them seriously anywhere, right? Like just go to iHeartRadio, Google Music, Stitcher, SoundCloud. They're also on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and their website, which is sfthpodcast.com. And on Twitter, you can check them out at hipshotpodcast.com. Also on YouTube at Shoot from the Hip podcast. So check them out today, guys. I really think that you'll enjoy the show and get a kick out of it. I listened to one of their shows just before this recording of my podcast, and I'm telling you right now, I was laughing out loud. Some of the stuff that they talk about it's so off the wall, but it's so well done and genuinely funny. So check out Shoot from the Hip podcast. You'll be glad you did.
Welcome to the WWE podcast. Your place for the most passionate wrestling analysis on the web.
Just turn Roman heel. What is WWE waiting for?
When other wrestling podcasts put you to sleep, you can count on the WWE podcast to keep you engaged and asking for more.
I've been watching wrestling for over 20 years, and that was one of the best matches I've ever seen.
This is unlike any other wrestling analysis. So without any further delay, let's get the show started right now.
Thank you so much for joining me on this Thursday, August 29th, 2019. This is the WWE podcast. In case you didn't know what you clicked on, this is a wrestling podcast by a fan for fans. That's what this show is. This is not state-run radio. No affiliation with WWE. Just had to make that very clear. But this is one of my favorite shows of the week because I bring on a co-host and we discuss the happenings in WWE the last week, really 2 weeks or 3 weeks, because I have a rotating cast of 3, and every 3 weeks I get to talk to my really awesome co-hosts. So this week it was Ashley Mann's turn, and we discussed just lots of fun stuff, from Enzo and Cass's possible return to NXT, what it could mean for Austin and The Undertaker to return on September 9th and 10th. They are confirmed to Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live, and what that could mean. We have some very, very intriguing scenarios that could play out, and it's not just fantasy booking. I think it might be real. It could be real, and we got chills just talking about it. So definitely, you're going to want to listen to this conversation for that later in the show. We also discuss our not so much dislike for Kofi, but our not buying into him being WWE champion. That whole case is brought back up. Baron Corbin as King of the Ring, and so much more. So you're going to want to stick around for all of that is coming up in just a few moments. But first, thank you so much for joining me. I know you have a lot of choices when it comes to wrestling podcasts. Tons, thousands, I say. And I want to thank you for choosing the WWE podcast because, hey, I know that I'm 1 in 1,000 here, but I think that we deliver a very passionate, easy to listen to, and fun listening experience that, of course, can use some improvements and what show can't. And I just want to thank you to those of you who are helping the show grow by leaps and bounds. It is appreciated, and I do notice those of you leaving 5-star reviews and all of that. It is noticed. And also, if you want to support the show and you love shopping on Amazon, you just go to shop or support the show on my home tab and click on the Amazon banner. From there, you just go right to whatever you're going to shop for, and it kicks back a little commission to the show. So it's a big deal, and it helps keep this show rolling for all the expenses. And you would say, what expenses? You're sitting there talking to a microphone. Well, this microphone I'm talking to is not cheap. The computer is not cheap. Hosting fees, podcasting fees, and various other things. So Yeah, it is a bit of an expensive venture, but it's one of passion and one that I hope you guys enjoy because I'm here for you and selfishly for me. I love doing this because God knows that we don't all have enough wrestling friends in our lives, right? That's why we turn to the internet, because we don't have enough close-knit friends that want to talk this passionately about wrestling. So that's what you guys are. You're my virtual wrestling friends, and I do thank you for listening. And also, just while I'm on the whole housekeeping items, check out patreon.com/WWE podcast. On there, you can get an ad-free listening experience of every single show. No ads, no plugs, nothing. Just a completely seamless listening experience for just $1 a month. It starts at $1. $1, you can get every show I've done ad-free. And I do think it's a hell of a bargain, if you ask me. Also, you can check me out anywhere that podcasts live. Literally anywhere. And also, as a reminder, I will be on vacation next week. I'll be gone the entire week. But I'm going to, like I said, I'm still going to try to produce shows as far as the NXT and AEW review and preview show. So, and do my own show. I'm going to try to sneak in one show next week. And I'm going to try to do it on, say, Thursday time frame, because that's when I have the standing co-host time slot. So I'm going to try to do it at that time and try to keep to my commitments. And because I know I'm going to want to talk about wrestling after seeing Raw and SmackDown, I need an outlet. So I'm going to do probably one show next week just with, you'll hear me and a co-host, and then you'll get a couple other shows for NXT and AEW that are going to be done by our new hosts of the show in James Ludeman and Zach Perez. So there's some good audio coming your way, wrestling audio that's going to be coming your way next week. So this show is going to continue rolling even in my absence, and I want to thank both James and Zach for their commitment and their passion for wrestling and really their generosity to take their time to contribute to this show. I think it's a big deal to have people that are as passionate about wrestling as you are and believe in the program you're growing. And so that's a cool deal. So, all right, well, guys, but before I get to the conversation with Ashley, and trust me, this is probably one of the best ones we've done. All are great, but sometimes you just feel extra special about some of them. And I just want to talk quickly about fantasy football because y'all know that I love it. And a lot of wrestling fans out there are fantasy football fans. Well, there's a new place out there that you can go, and it's called MyBookie. And I only recommend service to my listeners that's proven. That's why MyBookie, it's always the right play. You bet, you win, and they pay. It's a tagline, but it's true. They are really that simple. They have a live in-game betting on every NFL game. They've got their most rewarding player perks in really in the entire business. And for us fantasy guys out there, like you and me, we can even bet on the over-under on how many fantasy points a player is going to score every game. So there's no lack of ways or things to bet on. And you can get up to $1,000 first deposit in your bonus and double your first deposit. So all you have to do to get this really awesome bonus is use the promo code WWE to activate that offer. You just go to MyBookie, and it's MYBOOKIE, and just don't forget to use the promo code WWE when you create your account, and you'll be able to claim the bonus. You just bet, you win, and you get paid. It is really that simple. I use it. I love it. In lieu of all the other ways out there to bet on sports and gamble on sports, right? Because that's what it is. It's all a calculated estimate. MyBookie is by far the best. So check that out, and just don't forget to use the promo code WWE when you sign up. All right, well, guys, let's just get to it. Let's get to the conversation with Ashley. I think y'all will enjoy it. Apparently, I'm from the South now, even though I'm from New York. I don't know why I'm on the y'all kick, but I'm rolling with it. Y'all are gonna love this conversation with Ashley and myself, talking about everything in WWE from A to Z, and I will talk to you guys probably in a week. And again, you'll be seeing new shows being published about NXT and AEW from our new hosts. So give them some love and some support. I know that they will appreciate it, and so will I. All right, guys, I will talk to you next time, and enjoy the conversation. Okay, it's Thursday. That means I have a co-host with me this week. Ashley Mann joins me, and boy, lots to talk about. It feels like we just talked last week, but a lot has happened since then. I mean, we haven't talked about Sasha Banks' heel turn and return, for that matter, yet. Right. This whole the whodunit with Roman Reigns and the just kind of weird ending of SmackDown Live this week. So lots to get to, and I want to welcome you back to the show.
It's so great to be back, Mac. Thank you for having me. And I'm actually kind of happy that we're not leading into a pay-per-view this time, so we can actually talk about the shows and not be just solely focused on a pay-per-view. So I'm excited.
Yeah, we broke that streak. I don't know if it wasn't on
we
purpose.
Did.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. And the next time we talk, it'll be after Clash of Champions. So I think our streak is over for a while.
I think it is.
Yeah. And so I want to get to all of that with you for sure as we lead up to the Clash of Champions pay-per-view in just a couple of weeks. But first, I want to give you just a moment to tell everybody about not just about where they can find you on social media, but you also do another show called Wrestle Rewind, and let everybody know where they can find that and what that's about.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So on Twitter, I am at ASHMANNS. Feel free to give me a follow. I'd love to follow you back and chat about wrestling or whatever. But yeah, I also co-host another show, me and about 3 other guys actually, called Wrestle Rewind. We are still working on getting it on a regular basis on a podcast, but right now we pretty much focus on like a live video feed through Facebook. So you can definitely just search for Wrestle Rewind on Facebook. We go live every Thursday at 8:30. We're trying to still clean up a few things since we tend to ramble a lot. It's easy to do when you're literally in person beside friends who love wrestling just as much as you do. So we've definitely looking to trim down on the show length because we got crazy one day and went for 2 hours because it's so easy to do. But yeah. So definitely give it a check out and let me know what you think.
And I can vouch for it. I took a look at one of the shows, and you guys, you all have good chemistry, and the setup is very professional. I mean, you guys make me jealous as I'm sitting here in my basement with, I got like a little podcast area, and I got my chair, my headphones, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you guys put me to shame, and I got to say it's a nice setup you got there. And for sure, check it out, Wrestle Rewind on Facebook Live, and as we speak, it's Thursday, and so you'll be going live in just over an hour. So guys, check that out. It's also, you don't have to watch it live. All the shows are available there too. So yeah, very, very cool. So let's get into it. And the first thing that comes to mind to me is Sasha Banks' heel turn and return. My listeners know my thoughts, but they haven't heard yours. What do you think about this whole thing?
So the initial return, her interrupting Natalya when she was giving a speech about her father being the 1-year anniversary, I think, like everyone else, our ears kind of perked up once we realized she was interrupting such a sentimental moment, because obviously a babyface and a good guy wouldn't do that. Even if you're coming out for support, it's still like, hey, you couldn't have waited like 5 more minutes or whatnot. But I was so thrilled when she went full heel. It's what I've been hoping for her character for so long now. I was actually getting kind of concerned. Maybe she wouldn't come back since it had been so long since we had seen her on TV. But, man, I think she came back in the best way possible. I'm looking forward to her feud down the road with Becky Lynch. Hopefully they end up facing each other at Clash of Champions. But I think right now Natalya and Sasha is a good feud to build to the Becky and Sasha storyline. So I think that this is a good stepping stone in a way for Sasha. And, man, that beatdown she gave to Becky, whew. And that kick or that slap to the face and then the kick Becky gave back to her, man, you could just tell it got real there for a second. So I'm just ecstatic, and I can't wait to see Sasha and Becky face to face on a live. I can just hear that promo because it should be good. Now, the only thing I do have to say about this past week, when we actually did get to hear her for the first time, I enjoyed her promo. I like that she addressed certain things, kind of, and she still left some unanswered questions, so there's still more to fill in later. But the only thing, I feel like it was missing just that raw emotion. I feel like if she just, like, loosened up maybe a little bit more and just felt it more and, like, just fed off of the live crowd, I think it would have been maybe a little bit better, but I'm just stoked that she's back.
Yeah, good thoughts. I think, you're right, and Sasha returning was something that I was concerned would never happen either, and I heard rumblings leading up to that time that she might be, in talks with WWE, or at least they've reached out to her, but I certainly didn't expect her to interrupt Natalya and then turn full heel, and I love the way symbolically that she did it, as far as ripping off the old pink hair and throwing it to the mat, and having that change to blue it's so symbolic. And honestly, I think the blue looks better on her anyway. And her being heel feels more natural anyway. She doesn't feel like she's playing a character. Her promo cadence, her style, her delivery feels so much different than when she was a babyface, trying to play the babyface rather than just doing what comes natural to her. And yeah, the promo could have probably been infused with a little bit more emotion last Monday night, but as you said, I liked how she addressed the fact that everybody was talking about Sasha Banks, how her and Bayley, well, she didn't address Bayley, but that how she sat on the floor after WrestleMania and she cried and she threw a fit. Like, she brought up real things that kind of broke the fourth wall, but were enough to make it that you could include it in the storyline without going all the way to pulling back the curtain. It was I like that touch, because it was social media. Everybody knows what's going on. So I liked her bringing that in, not making it the focal point, but addressing it, because everybody is thinking about that. So I like that, and her new attitude is great. I love how she was able to just take Becky out. It wasn't just because, Becky's a babyface, that means she'll always get the best of the heel. No, Sasha came back with a fury. I would just, like you, like to see a little bit more emotion and energy in her promos.
Yeah, and I think we will. I think once we actually get to Becky and Sasha face to face, I think we will see that fierce side of Sasha. I think maybe in hindsight what they did this week was smart, so we don't get everything all at once, so we can still see the build to the attitudes and just both auras just clashing. Because obviously it's going to be a brawl for the ages. I think it's going to be great for the women's division, because I think everyone can probably agree the women's division was missing something this past, about 6 months since WrestleMania, definitely. A lot of people say it's since Ronda left, and it's just because that fire and that passion was just missing. And Becky really needed a good opponent to play off of, and this version of Sasha Banks is perfect. The only thing I hope they do end up doing is just changing her music, and maybe not coming out to or wearing like just the flashiness of it. Just make it kind of like a little edgier and just different music, definitely, because the music still makes you think of, like, you get excited to see Sasha, but now we're supposed to be mad and not like her. So music, in my personal opinion, plays a big difference, and it's a big deal, especially it really defines when a character goes from one version being a good guy to a bad guy. So I hope they tweak that.
And that's exactly what I said on my show earlier this week, that the music it's a Pavlovian reaction to, like Roman Reigns. I think a small piece of why he never truly got over as a babyface, and even to this day, is because the fans associate that music, like they associate that immediately with negative emotion, so you have to retrain and educate your brain to think differently because they've changed character. So with Sasha Banks, I agree. I actually like her entrance music. I don't know what that is, or I don't care if whatever. I don't know whatever kind of pop music that is. Like, it's catchy. And the same thing I think with Sami Zayn, while he's having a bit of trouble too, is like, how can you hate Sami Zayn's entrance music? It's so it screams babyface. It screams you to sing along. So I mean, I love that, and you can't have that as a heel if you want true heat. I mean, at least with Shinsuke Nakamura, they added a little bit of a tweak. It's a little edgier. It's got a little bit more heart and soul to it, a little bit darker, and that's what you need with Sasha. I totally agree that she needs to change that. Now, let me ask you this: do you think that Sasha Banks could be the one to finally dethrone Becky Lynch as her first loss since WrestleMania?
Oh, man. I do. For a couple reasons. And I think it's solely based if they can keep the momentum going with Sasha. And they need to be very careful with her character, because she can't come off being phony, and she can't look like a badass and go against Natalya and beat down Becky and do all these great things, cut a good promo, and just have this full turn and then get beat down by Becky next week. Like, Sasha needs to stay strong. And once we get to Clash of Champions, have that brawl, have a good fight, and however you want to decide the fall, whether it be clean or or not a disqualification, but cheating or something like that, that's a whole other topic. But I think you do. I think this is the hottest female that you have on the roster who's a heel. And if anyone is going to be Becky, it has to be the hottest heel that you have. So Sasha would be the logical guess. And I think, too, with the whole Becky situation, she was, I think, so much better as a character and as a wrestler who was chasing the title and not in defense mode, because she was that underdog that everyone wanted to get behind. But now she has a different story. Now we can still get behind her, but now we want to get behind her to see her avenge her loss. So I think that version of Becky's story is easier and more relatable for the mass majority of the audience to relate to than Becky being the champion, this dominant champion, and just constantly winning.
I think that's exactly right, and I think the same thing with Kofi Kingston, which we'll get to, is also the same. And Kofi Kingston has that same disease right now of just all of a sudden becoming Superman. But so we'll talk about that next. But I do agree with you that Becky Lynch, I think, it's run its course as far as the championship win. We got what we wanted, and I applaud WWE, and I would tip my hat to them, and they followed the story that people wanted. Although it should still have been one-on-one at WrestleMania, but that's another story. But regardless, they made Becky the champion. They not just put the Raw Women's Championship on her, they put the SmackDown Women's Championship on her and made her the dual champion, the absolute queen of the women's division. And I'm glad we went on the journey. It's just time. It's the nature of the business. It's cyclical. It's just time for her to go back into chase mode, and that's okay. We had the run with her. I think they need to do it before fans start resenting her, which I don't think is too far away. The same thing with Kofi. I really believe that. I mean, I don't like really, really long reigns with baby faces because the story just isn't as intriguing when they're on top fighting off contenders as it is when they're in chase mode trying to dethrone the evil heel. It's just not as intriguing in general. So yeah, I'm with you on that, and I think Sasha would be a great opponent to do that and dethrone Becky Lynch. I think she's the right person because honestly, when you look at the roster on the Raw side, who is possibly at Sasha's level that is even believable or credible enough to take that belt from Becky and make a long run with it as a heel? I mean, you can't go back to Lacey Evans. That's not happening. So, Sasha to me needs to take the belt, if not the first attempt, the second attempt. And I think we're a month or two away from Becky being dethroned.
And just imagine a cocky Sasha Banks who dethrones Becky Lynch. Like, just imagine that promo that night after.
That's a good point.
Like, that would be, I would just love to see that. I would pay to see that. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. I hope they have to pull the trigger because, like you said, if not Sasha, then who? And if they do pull the trigger, have Sasha win down the road, depending, of course, just pure speculation, but it just came to me as you were talking, this could free up Becky to face Ronda Rousey. Let's say Ronda comes back towards the end of the year, maybe around Survivor Series, Royal Rumble time frame, because then it doesn't have to be about a championship. It can just be about Ronda avenging her loss. So, but at least it won't be right around the title. And of course, it could possibly get to that at some point, but at least you could have 2 or 3 strong storylines for the women's division going forward into your WrestleMania season.
Exactly. I mean, you can have Becky in personal issues now rather than just chasing or defending the championship, and that's okay. It just is time, and I'm fine with it. And I supported Becky from the beginning of her quote heel turn last SummerSlam, and it's just the time to make the change. And if they continue down this path, though, I mean, if she defeats Sasha Banks soundly again. I mean, what's left? I think if that happens, you will see some resentment and the crowd begin to turn on Becky. I really believe that. And Sasha Banks right now is, as you just said, imagine that heel promo, her arrogance, her just, the disgusting.
It was so great.
It would be amazing. An amazing way to transition the championship from having somebody overcome the odds and win the main event of WrestleMania, such a high. We take the ride for like 4 months now, and then we go right back into, oh my God, she's champion. And I think Sasha would do an amazing job as a heel champion and break her streak of not being able to defend it. That's the other key too. She is, I believe, I don't think she's ever successfully defended the women's championship, so they need to rectify that immediately.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I completely forgot about that, but you're so right.
So in kind of paralleling that, as I said, with Kofi Kingston, what is your feeling on the Kofi-Randy situation? Do you feel Kofi's in that same boat as Becky, or do you think maybe he needs to run out this championship run a little longer?
I think he's on the same path as Becky, but I don't think he is as close as Becky is. I think he could probably ride it out for a few more months. I would say probably maybe 3 months max. And I don't think Randy Orton would be the best person to take it off of him. Just because Randy Orton is just that legacy star now. Like, he's a good main eventer if you need a main eventer to slide in. Like, he can pretty much make any storyline believable and a decent quality match and things like that. So he's still definitely a good hand. And honestly, it would be believable if you did take the title off of Kofi and put it on Randy. It's not like people would be like, what, Randy Orton, really? Like, they would be mad, of course, but it wouldn't be unbelievable. But so I don't think Randy Orton is the guy, but just thinking about who's on SmackDown right now, like, I don't really know who is the guy to take it off of Kofi. Without any like major turns or anything. Like, looking at the roster right now, I don't know who that guy would be.
Well, I mean, I could point to Samoa Joe, but I think that the thing. I mean, I've been barking up that tree for years now, and
I would love Joe, but they won't get behind him.
No, they won't, and it's a shame. And the whole Drew McIntyre conundrum too. That is, he's starting to fall into that same pattern of he could be an amazing heel, especially if you give him a belt. And they just jerk him around. He cuts a good promo. He's extremely believable. And then they just have him lose the match and lose the match. He loses at WrestleMania.
Yeah, you could have even had him win the King of the Ring tournament. Like, when he lost, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, really? And clean? Like, really? Like, I was just, that blew me. I was so upset because I saw him as being in the finals, if not right there near it. And just King McIntyre, like, that would have been perfect for him because he doesn't have to defend anything. He has bragging points. Like, that would have been a good build for him, but I was so disappointed when he lost.
I was genuinely disheartened, and not because I cheer for McIntyre, but because I love to hate him because he's so good. He's so damn good at being a heel.
I want to hate him.
Yes, that's what I want to feel, and I feel that with McIntyre. So he loses clean to Ricochet on Raw, and I'm sitting there going, what? And even the announcers go, that's a bracket buster, and it is because
it is.
I don't see. This is an example of WWE trying to overbook and be too cute, and they can't get out of their own way just for the fact of, well, everybody thinks it's going to be McIntyre. We need to change it. Why? I don't care if it's predictable. If it's the right thing to do.
It's okay sometimes to be predictable.
Yeah, and McIntyre is a perfect fit for this, and I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe they got other plans for him. He's not going to win the tournament, but he'll get in the title picture. But I don't see any evidence of that either. So,
and we've been saying that for months now with him.
Yeah, I've said that. Yes, and we just keep getting our hopes up on this show, and then just to have them shattered every week on Raw. So I'm not I'm not against Ricochet. I just think that they think he's the flavor of the week. That right now he's the shiny new toy for Vince McMahon, and they are sitting on a gold mine with McIntyre, who has got the look, he's got the entrance, he sure as hell has the promo and the presence. I have no idea how this guy does not have gold on his shoulder yet.
And looking at him, in my head, I can picture Vince McMahon drawing the perfect wrestler, and when I look up, I see Drew McIntyre. And it blows me that he has not even been in a serious contention for the title. And it kills me. You should have just left him in NXT if you're not really going to take him seriously and push him as the monster heel that he should be.
Right. But, he's messing around with Shane McMahon as his henchman and that kind of thing. I think Drew McIntyre could actually benefit from being a part of a stable. Get a couple of guys behind him, just as kind of Randy Orton's doing with the Revival, that kind of team. I think that Drew McIntyre in a stable with two other guys could be very successful, and having Drew take the championship and then keep it by by way of having his henchmen do the dirty work and take the hits while he gets cheap shots and gets the win. I mean, the formula is tried and true. It is something that I think Drew McIntyre could absolutely benefit from, is just having a couple of guys come to his aid and form this faction. And maybe that's a road they go down. But I was so disappointed on Raw. I'm going, oh, come on. And you know exactly why they're doing it, because everybody in the world is predicting McIntyre. It's just stupid.
It really is. But yeah, like you said, have him in a faction. Like when you were saying that, I just pictured like Miz and his Miztourage, and just have Drew be Miz, but obviously the exact opposite version as a heel, where Miz is the chicken, you know what, heel. McIntyre is the monster heel, and just have his two buddies just right there with him. Man, it could be just pure gold, but I doubt we'll see that.
I don't know who McIntyre pissed off backstage. I don't know. I really have no idea. There's no explanation for it. He never gets any bad social media, any press. He hasn't done anything to embarrass the company. He's a hard worker. He's seasoned. He's well-rounded, very good in the ring, which we don't really talk about much either beyond his look, his presence, and his promos.
True.
He is very sound in the ring. There's just really no case against McIntyre not being a champion. But maybe it'll happen this year, maybe not. But I just think they're sitting on a gold mine. But moving down the line a little bit, what do you think about Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon? That while Shane wasn't on SmackDown Live this week, Kevin Owens has suddenly become this sad puppy dog that has his tail between his legs because Shane McMahon fined him $100,000 and then ends up screwing him out of the King of the Ring tournament last week on SmackDown Live, and is still sulking over this fine.
My first reaction is just, why are we still going back and forth with Shane and Kevin? Like, it should have been over at SummerSlam. Like, that was the perfect send-off. Kevin gets his big victory over Shane in his home country. It's at SummerSlam at number 2 event in the year for WWE, so it should have been over with. But I didn't like when Kevin was backstage, like, pretty much begging Shane to remove the fine, because if your idea, which I hate comparing two wrestlers, but if your idea is to have Kevin Owens be the next Stone Cold, or that type of figure, that type of bad guy, or, you know, tough guy, like everyone gets behind, like your average everyday guy everyone loves, then he's not going to beg Shane McMahon to lower the fine or remove the fine or anything like that. He's going to be pissed off about it, probably raise some hell, and then go about his business. Everyone knows Kevin can afford it. Yeah, it's a hefty fine, it's a hefty amount, but like, let's just use common sense. Like, they're $1 billion company. Like, we all know, like, Kevin can afford it. So it's just, I just want them to be done. Like, if they really want to focus on pushing Kevin as a top guy, he needs to be removed from the whole Shane McMahon dynamic in its entirety. And I like heel Shane McMahon. I think that's the best version that we've seen of Shane, but he needs a break too. So he can go away for a few months, and then when he comes back, we can start hitting him again. Because now I'm just like, oh, it's Shane again. You know, I'm just like, whatever. It's just taking the enjoyment out of seeing Kevin Owens on the show away, because he's still tied in with this, to me personally, this just stupid storyline.
Yes, and you know, Kevin Owens was really gaining a lot of momentum after turning true babyface and calling out Shane for taking up TV time and really being the voice of the fans and saying, you know, other people deserve time. And all that's true because he became the voice of the people. And he started using the stunner. That certainly helps. So all of a sudden, he beats Shane McMahon, and then Shane fines him $100,000 for attacking an official, which, by the way, is not a real official, and Elias is not a true WWE official, but don't even let me get started in the whole legality part of this whole thing. I mean, it's just silly that actually is a thing. But on top of it, you have Kevin Owens. The whole thing, he's been neutered. He is sulking over this $100,000, and they're trying to tie it back to, well, what if it was your family? You got fined $100,000. And I know what they're trying to do, that they're bringing it back to family is the most important thing. But in 2 royalty checks that Kevin Owens gets from selling merchandise, he could easily make that up, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't think he's hurting for money, and they're trying to make it. Well, 100,000 is probably believable. It'll hurt. It's kind of no.
He should be mad, not sad.
Right. The whole thing is, regardless of the dollar amount is actually irrelevant. It's how Kevin Owens reacted to the fine. He should have told Shane McMahon to shove the fine up his ass and then beat the holy hell out of him in his office and just start destroying stuff, as you said. That's the reaction of an anti-hero, not the reaction of a guy that is supposed to be this next big baby face and using the stunner to just cower in the presence of a McMahon and, apologize for it. It wasn't like he was setting Shane up for something in a kind of a faux apology. It was a genuine apology because Shane McMahon ended up getting the one-up again by screwing Kevin Owens out of the King of the Ring tournament. And the whole thing just halted Kevin Owens' momentum in its tracks.
Yeah, it definitely did. And now it's just like what's the payoff to this now? Because we've already had a match against the both of them, and Kevin's already won. So, where do we go from here? And that's my fear, too. It's just like Kevin's just spinning his wheels for the next few weeks or whatever. What does he do at Clash of Champions? Is he not going to fight for a title? I'm not saying necessarily he should go after Kofi, but what is he doing? Does he fight against Shane again? Is he not even on the card? It's just, I want to get behind Kevin. I want him to be a top guy or the top guy for them, but I'm just concerned now since they're dragging this on, where do we go from here? And once he's finished with this, is he going to be like Drew McIntyre and just fall by the wayside? So I don't know. I'm just concerned.
I think what they're going to do to answer that question, it has to be leading to another match with Shane McMahon. It just has to be.
Do you think Hell in a Cell again? Because that's what, October?
I mean, it could be. I mean, think about the relationship there, right? There is some history in that Hell in a Cell match with Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon. I mean, could they come full circle there? They absolutely could, and maybe that's where it ends. And to be honest with you, that's what Hell in a Cell's meant for, is the blow-off, the final match. So, my God, if it goes that long, it better be completely worth it. But I think that maybe at Clash of Champions, either A, like you said, he doesn't have a match, or he interferes and, I don't know, costs Elias a match, or he interferes and beats up Shane McMahon in some capacity to just lead all the way to Hell in a Cell where it's finally over. But I don't know if they can stretch it out that long, because I think people are getting a little bit sick and tired of this program when we all thought it was over at SummerSlam. And if it's all going to be on the line at Clash of Champions, say Kevin Owens and Shane have a match at Clash of Champions, there needs to be some high stipulations in that match, meaning Shane McMahon needs to sign on the dotted line that if Kevin Owens wins, he will no longer be involved in any capacity in Kevin Owens' life, or something of that capacity, because we all know Shane's not going to sign if I lose, I'll never compete again. They're not putting that stipulation on, because Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon and management just can't help themselves of putting Shane in a main event at WrestleMania. So that won't be the stipulation. But if this is going to end at Clash of Champions, there needs to be a very high stakes match that there could be no follow up to. It's just, this is the end.
Yeah, I agree. But I think we completely deviated from Kofi Kingston by accident.
Yeah, we did.
Because I was like, oh man, I know I was getting to a point with going through all these guys. But yeah, poor Kofi. So wait, what do you think?
Okay, so here's the thing. Now, this is not a very popular opinion, but I've made it very clear on the show, too, that I'm going to stick by my guns. And, I am a Kofi fan. I will just say that first and foremost. I like Kofi Kingston as a performer. I think that he is ultra-talented. He has certainly found a home in the New Day, one of the most successful groups in the history of the organization, if not the most financially successful group in the history of WWE, with all of the merchandise and kids' sales and T-shirts and unicorns and cereals, everything that they sell. I'm sure if you wrote down a number, it exceeds any group that ever was in WWE, just for the simple longevity of the group. I mean, D-Generation X certainly sold a whole hell of a lot of merchandise, but I would garner to say they might be in the top 3 for sure. So, yes, Kofi Kingston found a home. He sold a lot of merchandise. He's made a lot of money. And for 11 years, we all know 11 years because that's been jammed down our throats too, that he has been in the WWE. He had that match with Randy Orton in 2008, 2009, whatever it was, and we all thought that was going to be the moment. But even after that, like, I mean, I thought that could be a launching point, and it wasn't. But that's the only match in his 11 years that he has actually had that moment. And for 11 years, outside of that one match in 11 years, we have been educated to believe that Kofi Kingston is a solid mid-card guy that occasionally challenges for the Intercontinental Championship, would make a long-standing United States champion, but never really gets to that top spot. And I don't believe there was anybody crying about that. Nobody, up until the Elimination Chamber last year, was crying about Kofi Kingston going, oh my God, he would make such a great WWE champion. Oh, that would be so cool. It was nothing more than people going, oh my God, this would be such a cool moment. Kofi Kingston would win the championship. Who would think? And I got myself behind it too. I'm not going to lie about that. I think it was an amazing match. It got you into it. It was so emotionally engaging. It was great. And the fans fed off of each other, and then all of a sudden it just became WWE grabbing the narrative of, oh, well, he's been here 11 years and he's never gotten a WWE title shot. Well, Kofi Kingston, how about you follow the WWE formula of all you have to do is attack the champion and you instantly get a championship match. I mean, like,
exactly.
So it's just how they get championship matches is silly. But the point I'm making is that Kofi Kingston has been defined as a mid-card, solid, could work with anybody, nice guy, great performer, solid fundamental guy for 11 years. And all of a sudden he becomes Superman overnight and hasn't lost a match since WrestleMania. And I am not in that camp of on board with this. I wouldn't boo Kofi. When he comes out, I find myself trying to believe, or not believe, but solidify and be okay with him carrying the lineage that comes with the WWE Championship when he is throwing pancakes out into the audience and still doing his jokes and all this stuff. When serious things are going on, he's still acting as if he's, I don't know, fly sky high on marijuana. I mean, he just doesn't have that feeling to me, and I'm trying, and I shouldn't have to try to feel this way.
Man, yeah, I couldn't have said it any better myself. I agree with you 100%, and you're absolutely right. And I was actually saying that to one of my friends the other day because we were talking about Kofi. It's amazing because I don't remember any backlash or any riots or any fans complaining that Kofi was being held down or not getting a shot or why aren't they pushing him until Elimination Chamber, until that spark happened. So this whole 11 years thing, it doesn't really make sense, but I guess they just needed something to market and to be able to hashtag, because I think there's even a hashtag on his gear, which, whatever, I get it, makes sense. It's easy to do. But yeah, the thing that kills me the most is the pancakes. If it's just a regular night and he's, celebrating a victory or something like that, then yeah, celebrate with pancakes if that's your thing. But when Randy Orton is threatening your kids or got in your kid's face at SummerSlam and he's talking, let alone just talking about your kids and your family, that should piss you off. And you shouldn't, the last thing on your mind should be throwing pancakes. So I just wish, if you're going to stick with him, make him serious.
And think about this too. Think about what happened to Xavier Woods last week when they basically took out his leg and RKO'd the entire group. And he comes out as if nothing happened this week, right, and is throwing pancakes like he just made them fresh in the back. I mean, it's just, there's no connection for me. And it's all about, well, this is what got us over. You got to do what brought you to the dance. Kids expect us to throw pancakes. Well, you know what? F the kids once in a while and worry about what is actually making sense for the rest of the audience that can intelligently understand what a good story means. And what a good story means is the appropriate emotional reaction is not what Kofi Kingston has been doing since he became champion, or really throughout his entire run with the New Day. But yeah, he needs a little bit of a change, or distance himself from the New Day. I don't feel Kofi Kingston is WWE champion. He just is kind of oh, that's right, he's WWE champion. The championship is kind of getting buried with Kofi Kingston because the focus has been on Roman Reigns and his mystery attacker.
Yeah, and exactly. And I kind of feel in a way, the WWE championship being on Kofi Kingston is kind of, in a weird way, the same way it was being held captive when Brock Lesnar had the Universal title, just in a different sense. Brock obviously was never around, didn't really show up much except for the big shows. Whereas Kofi, he's been holding on to it. And yeah, that's the point. I get it, of being champion, is to have a solid, nice, long run with the title, because if you just lose it right away, it diminishes the value for the title itself and the performer. I get that. But it's kind of like they're afraid to have Kofi lose or even look weak, quote unquote weak, since he's champion now. But if you just go back a year, if we were to have done a WWE 24 on Kofi, we would have seen him losing, or maybe been in a tag team title level. But that was it. And I'm totally happy for him. Like you said, he deserves it. He's a good worker. He's solid. But just it's okay for him to lose. And it's just weird. I don't know the route that they're going to go. And I'm curious to see what happens with him once he does lose the title to whoever it is. It doesn't even really matter who he loses it to. My thing is, what happens to him and his level in the tier of wrestling? Is he still going to be top card main event level, or is he going to be back to the mid card, upper, lower mid card, top card level? So it's just, what do you do with him after that? So, and are they really going to take him as seriously then and give him more chances? And is he ever going to be a 2-time champion, or is this just a one-off thing? So I'm curious to see what direction they go once he does end up losing.
That is because he will end up losing. I don't know when or how. It's how does WWE view him in the hierarchy after he doesn't have the championship, which is right now making him. He's not making the championship. So you're right. He's holding it hostage, but almost in plain sight. He's like the opposite of Brock Lesnar. He's doing the same thing as Lesnar, but he's actually there every week.
Exactly.
It's a very bizarre thing, and I think that once Kofi Kingston loses, he'll just kind of go back to the New Day. He'll go back to the comfort zone of being in the New Day, and I think that's where he's comfortable. It's a successful group. That's just where he will end up. And I don't think he'll go Jinder Mahal and just go into the abyss of forgettability. I think he will end up being a guy that you go, oh yeah, well, he's won it before. Why couldn't he win it again? And he'll compete in number one contendership matches, but I don't think he'll have a run like he's having now. Because if I was to grade the success of this run, and again, this probably depends on your perspective of Kofi Kingston and your support of him as champion, but I mean, I would grade it a C. I would say it's kind of like eh. I mean, it's not terrible, and it's not overachieving at all by any means. I think the journey getting there was more exciting than actually holding the belt and trying to hang on to it for the last 4 months. So I'm on board for WrestleMania matches and results and championship changing hands at WrestleMania having to stick for a while, and I think that's what we've done, and that's great. But I'm on the side of the island here that says I'm ready for Kofi Kingston to drop the belt. I've been ready for him to drop the belt for a couple of months, more than most people, but that's just is what it is. I don't know if Randy Orton is the guy to do it. People would be pissed, and maybe that's the point because he's a heel, and maybe the Revival help him, and he comes up with a new name for his stable that he's in. And I love Randy in stables. I think he's in Randy Orton as heel, the sadistic guy, all that. I love the sick Randy Orton heel. And that's what he is right now. It's just so enjoyable to watch.
And him and the Revival is a perfect pairing.
Yes. And because the Revival, my God, do they need help right now?
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you listen, just take a listen to the crowd reaction when their music hits. I mean, it'd be the same equivalent as me coming out. I mean, I'd probably get more of a reaction because they go, who the hell is this guy? I mean, it's true. The Revival get little to nothing, and it's because they most probably didn't follow them in NXT, but right now they need Randy, and I think to some degree Randy needs them.
Yeah. It's I don't want to say keeping Randy relevant because that's not the case, but it's giving something Randy to do. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and I like it. Randy, I feel like Randy is best when he is in a faction. It may just be me, but I just look at Randy and I see him as the leader of a faction. I think him and Legacy, they just looked good. I mean, I think they could have done much more with him as a group, but that's a whole other discussion. But just seeing Randy in a group is cool to me. I don't know why, but I dig it.
I do too. Randy Orton he's so damn good he doesn't have to try.
Yeah.
And it's true. He knows it. And
yeah.
And I look, I'm on board, and I get why Randy Orton doesn't put 110% into his matches. He's just trying to create the longest career he can have and make the most money he can. And I totally get it, and I would do the same thing if I could. But Randy Orton has so much talent that he cannot try and preserve his body for, at the expense of not having to look like he's not trying. It's crazy the way Randy Orton is so damn good that if he ever truly applied himself and said, you know what, I'm going balls to the wall for the next 6 months in my character, in my promos, and in my matches, eyes would be open going, where the hell has this Randy been the last 10 years? I mean, but Randy Orton, again, is just kind of in the comfort zone because he's so damn good. But so I know you don't have a ton of time left, so I'm going to kind of rapid fire some questions at you.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've heard, but the latest is that Enzo and Cass are in talks for an NXT return. Have you heard this?
I saw something briefly about it, just like a random tweet, but I haven't had a chance to read a full article or anything. So is that what the idea was for NXT?
Yeah, that seems to be the plan, at least. And again, this is all coming from the big major wrestling websites.
Yeah.
That we all know what they are. And Enzo and Cass have apparently, reportedly, according to sources, the very specific sources, that Enzo and Cass have been reached out to by WWE management in talks for a possible NXT return. And I do think there's probably some truth to this, given that that Enzo, or rather Cass, has gotten himself in much better shape from when that picture surfaced a number of months ago from an independent show that looked, it was awful.
Did you see that video he did? I'm sorry to cut you off, but did you see that video?
No.
It was an interview. I forget who it was with, but he did, or it may have just been a video he did himself, but it was maybe about 2-3 months ago. It was just this sit-down video, maybe a couple minutes long. He was just pretty much taking ownership of everything that happened when he was in WWE and for getting fired. Said he's been battling depression and addiction for a few years now, and he really came to terms with it around that time frame and realized that he needed to get help. So he had moved down to Atlanta to live with DDP and to go through DDP yoga. So I know,
really?
And he'd even mentioned that WWE had sponsored him through their rehab program a few months ago, which led him and really opened his eyes and made him realize what he did wrong and that he had a problem. So once he finished WWE rehab, that's when he went down to Atlanta for DDP's yoga program. But yeah, so I wasn't surprised when I saw the tweet with Cass, because I kind of figured if either of them ever came back, Cass would. But the Enzo thing really surprises me, just because it was a really sensitive topic with his whole leaving and what he said afterwards and everything like that, because he's not the quietest person in the room.
Was that sexual harassment or alleged rape or something?
Alleged rape, yeah. And I think he ended up getting cleared of it, which is great. Obviously no one knows the true story. We never will. It's none of our business really. But I guess I'm surprised with how quickly, because it was only 2 years ago? Maybe a year ago that he was fired or all this happened. So just kind of surprised. And I don't really think they need him. I could see them using Big Cass, and Enzo was great on the mic. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I'm just very surprised, I guess I should say.
It was shocking considering where, at their low points, thinking that there's never a chance of these two coming back again. And
right.
I think that the never say never in wrestling just came back to bite us. Again, they haven't debuted yet, and this could just all be conjecture and just rumors. But now, it does seem plausible. With that video you said of Cass basically making amends with WWE in a public fashion, and Enzo clearing his name and all that, and maybe that is the case, and that NXT could certainly use a very credible tag team, and the fact that they're going to 2 hours in the middle of September could also be a factor here. So I would not be surprised if this happens at all, given the fact that, hey, I think these two have probably made amends and they're on the right path. So, a couple more things. I'm sure you've heard that the two things, that Austin is going to be at the Madison Square Garden September 9th show,
Yes.
and The Undertaker is going to be appearing at the September 10th SmackDown Live. What do you think, if anything, happens here? What are their roles?
Man, I didn't hear about The Undertaker, but I did hear about Austin. I'm so bummed I'm not going to be there. But when I initially heard that SmackDown was going to be, or Raw and SmackDown were going to be at MSG back to back, my first thought was, oh, so I wonder if they're going to be doing like some type of draft or like superstar shakeup or whatever, since they're going to be moving into October. You know, Paul Heyman and Eric have their own shows. Like, it would just make sense to me. Not that I necessarily agree with it one way or another, just with the inconsistency of storylines and everything as it is, but it could be a good starting over point. But that's just where my mind went at first. But I don't know. I have no idea what they would be doing, because I can't think of anything that Austin is promoting, because the show is already out and doing pretty well from what I hear. And Undertaker, he's just one of those guys you can bring back at any time, and he doesn't need a reason. He can just be there. But Austin's like the wild card. Like, what is his exact purpose for being there? So I'm curious to see what he ends up doing.
Yeah, I mean, he was just at the Raw reunion.
Yeah.
I mean, just like a month and a half ago. So it's like, I don't know what he's there for. I mean, I think we can all get past the one more match for Austin, as much as I would love it. I think he's past it. I think we're all past that. It's been, 8 years too late. But I don't know what he's there for. It is Madison Square Garden. It is where Vince McMahon got his first stunner.
True.
But they keep reliving that too. I mean, I never get tired of seeing it, but they just did that at the Barclays Center at Raw 25th anniversary, and I was there live for that. I mean, so I don't get tired of it, but if that's what it's there for, and it's just a hot shot to relive the, from 20 years ago, 21, 22 years ago, then fine, I'm cool with it. I love seeing it. It's always a fun nostalgia trip to take. But I just don't see anything long-term for Austin here. I just don't see it. But I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. He's my favorite of all time. As far as the Undertaker goes, my case is this, and if you guys listen to my show, you know where I'm going with this, is I think that the Fiend here could make an appearance in, not maybe attack Undertaker, as so much as to maybe just do his creepy music, the lights go out, and he appears to play mind games and then just disappears, planting the seeds for a match for those two down the line. Because there are rumors, and I'm not going to spoil it for people, of Bray Wyatt or The Fiend facing somebody else, I'll leave it at that, at Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what happens. I think that's where The Fiend ultimately ends up, is with The Undertaker, because that's what his path is right now, is attacking legends. And maybe he tries to attack Stone Cold. I don't know. I mean, but I think The Fiend ends up attacking The Undertaker at some point, if not at least a small hint of something between these two at the event on September 10th.
Dude, yeah, I can't believe I completely forgot. But on my other show and that I do with my other friends, we were talking about The Fiend, of course, right after SummerSlam and all that. And I had mentioned the same thing, because we had kind of like did our own our predictions for next year's WrestleMania and Hall of Fame. So my thought was the same as exactly what you just said. He's focusing and targeting legends. So obviously, if he attacks The Undertaker and the route that they're taking him and how successful he's been in such a short amount of time with this version of his character, I mean, it's amazing. I haven't heard any negative reviews on it at all anywhere, which is absurd nowadays, because everyone has a negative opinion about something, it seems. But everyone loves The Fiend, so just to even see him interact with Undertaker at all, I think, man, I would love to see them just do the breakdown of his music and have the lights go out, but have The Fiend not show up and just have it kind of spook Undertaker, because I don't think we've ever seen Undertaker be shook by anything, have we?
Not that
sticks out, at least. Yeah, and imagine seeing The Fiend completely wipe out Austin on Raw, and then the next night come out and just terrorize Undertaker. Man, talk about a good 2-night span. Oh my gosh.
God. Yeah, I mean, maybe you could have Austin kind of get the best of both worlds, where on Monday Night Raw you have Austin stun somebody, so you get the beer and you get the stunner, and people go crazy, and it's great because they need to do that.
Right towards the end of the show.
Right, where he's on the top rope, he's chugging his beers, and then all of a sudden the lights do that, whatever those sound effects are.
Yeah.
Which is, now I'm getting chills talking about it.
Me too.
It would be free. Oh man, so we're fantasy booking, but come on, guys, how
please,
can we not
anyone
see
listening, do this, please.
I'm not saying have a match with Austin and The Fiend. I'm saying that just think of the impact that would have. How many people would be talking about that? And Austin doesn't need to take a bump. All he needs to do is take the mandible claw, which requires 0 in terms of his body. So,
which is the perfect finishing move to take out legends because 90% of them can't take bumps. So what better way than to literally lay them down as gracefully as you can?
I mean, yeah, you're essentially just lullabying them to sleep. I mean, that's what it looks like you're doing.
Right.
It's the safest thing you can possibly do.
It's perfect.
See, now I got myself all revved up for September 9th and September 10th. I mean, something has to happen with the Fiend here.
To.
Please, something has to happen. But yeah, the Fiend is the hottest thing in WWE right now. The best thing that WWE has going right now for sure is the Fiend. And he's not even there every week, which, you know what? I love that he's not there every week because it makes people want him more.
Exactly.
We are all conditioned to believe that everybody has to see everybody every week. Why? It doesn't make it feel special. It just comes taken for granted, and you don't get that big reaction of hey, we missed you. The heart grows fonder, right? All that.
Right.
That's not there when you have to see somebody every week. So, just a couple other things very quickly.
Yeah.
What do you think about Baron Corbin's win over The Miz, and could he be the next King of the Ring?
You know, I hate to say it, but that crown was good on him. Like, when he smiled and he sat in that throne, I was like, I bet you $10 Vince is back in the bag just with a huge smile on his face because I'm sure he loved seeing that. So I'm 50-50. I could see Vince because it's not for a title. It's nothing that has to be defended. So all it is pure bragging rights, which is why unless you have like a special babyface type of character who can handle it, it's almost a given that a heel has to win. You use it to brag. Edge was the first one that I thought of that kind of broke that mold a little bit, but man, I could see Vince just saying, you know what, I've given them Becky, Seth, Kofi, I've given them all this up until this point. I want Corbin as king. So, and it sounds good, King Corbin. I mean, I'm not for it, but I could totally see it, and it kind of just makes me chuckle a little bit just thinking because people are gonna lose their you know what if he wins.
They're gonna be so pissed.
And just imagine that could be perfect though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's exactly what Baron Corbin needs. If Drew McIntyre's not going to win, look, as you just said, this match is designed by its nature for a heel to win. So, yes, if Corbin wins, I'm totally on board for it because he got really tiresome in his GM role, and then he wasn't the GM, but he still wore the same clothes when he was as a GM. He was coming out in his after prom tux, and it got very just overexposed, and I was tired of it, and I think we were all just like, hey, take some time away. And he took some time away. And he came back, and now he's got the black wife beater on. Whatever. It's a small change, but it's something that needed to change. Yeah, sure. And he is a good promo. He is obnoxious. I see why Vince is high on him, and this could be a very, very good thing for Baron Corbin to get that. I mean, he's got the most natural heat of anybody on the roster. People genuinely dislike him. So this is a perfect fit for Corbin, who has now moved into the favorite spot, if you ask me.
Yeah, me too. I have a funny feeling it's going to be King Corbin.
It just has a good ring, as you said, on top of it. So the last thing I wanted to ask you about is Seth and Braun Strowman. Now they're tag team champions, Raw tag team champions. Do you see Seth dropping the belt to Braun at Clash of Champions? And second question, do you see them dropping the Raw tag team belts? How does this whole thing play off, and what's the payoff?
Yeah. I'm really confused with this one. I don't see the need for them to necessarily be tag team champions to get to the same match, being the Universal title match. I think Braun could have very easily just walked up to Seth apparently and just been like, hey, I want to challenge you for the title. And Seth would have been like, all right, Clash of Champions, done. With how things are going nowadays. But of course, for me, I don't like what it's done to the tag division just because I think Gallows and Anderson should have held on to it a little bit longer because they were finally getting in a groove and rebuilding themselves as a believable and dominant tag team. So I was really happy for them being champions with AJ. Like it was good for them as a character. So I don't really I'm kind of just meh about the whole thing. Like it's not really doing anything for me. I see them dropping it, but then again, they would be dropping it to Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler, right? So that's like another random team. So, but then I can kind of see that because oddly enough, like Ziggler and Roode like actually did pretty well together, and I'm like, oddly intrigued to see how they could be as a tag team going forward. But I do see them dropping the titles to Rude and Ziggler, and I see Seth retaining his Universal title unless something changes between now and then. But I see this feud between Seth and Braun going forward for at least a few more months.
Totally agree. My quick thought is that I think Seth Rollins retains. They drop the tag team titles at Clash of Champions to Rude and Ziggler, who both need each other. And as you said, I'm intrigued too. And WWE had to create teams to make sure that they were able to fit the 18 tag team turmoil match, because they had to just invent them out of thin air.
And B-team, where have they been?
I don't know. I don't know. But that's how desperate. I'm surprised they didn't bring the Ascension back for this. I mean,
them and the Colognes. Remember them?
Yeah, the Cologne. Oh God, yeah, the Colognes. Jeez. But yeah, I think that there's some kind of conflict that happens during their tag team title match. They drop the belts because I don't need them in multi-story matches that overexposes everybody. Just have them have a little conflict, a miscommunication. It creates tension for their match later in the night. I think this match opens the show, and I think that Seth and Braun Strowman close the show. So I think that's my what happens. Your quick thoughts on Roman Reigns and the Attacker storyline?
Again, that's another one. A lot of people were outraged and just mad and disappointed with how things went this week. Again, I think my main issue, I guess I would say, is I think this week's episode and last week's episode should have been reversed. I think the whole reveal of the Daniel Bryan seeing the footage of Eric Rowan supposedly being in the back and then believing that it was him and hitting him, whatever, that should have happened before the whole Daniel Bryan and Rowan found a true attacker, and it was the guy who just looked like Rowan. So I think if they just reversed the two shows, it would have played better and been more acceptable for people to believe in. I guess the thing that gets me too is this, are they really going to stick with Rowan doing it, or did Daniel Bryan put Rowan up to it? Because Roman speared Bryan, but Bryan was just beating him in the back for beating Rowan in the back for lying to him about the whole thing. So if anything, Roman should have been sympathizing with Bryan and realizing that Bryan was really trying to figure this all out and he had been lied to. So I think the psychology of it for me is just out of whack. But as a whole, I just appreciate, one, Roman not being in the title picture and not just doing random meaningless things. And B, I appreciate a good, or just a whodunit storyline, because it's something that we're invested in. It's something for us to look forward to, whether we like how it's going or we don't. It's just a storyline that we have to follow week to week to see how it's going to advance, whether again we agree with it or not. But again, I think it's just something to keep everyone busy for now. I think if it does lead to a Daniel Bryan Roman Reigns match, it would be a really good match. But yeah, I don't think this is it, and I think there's still a few more twists and turns coming up. But I'm just taking a wait and see approach on it. I'm not thrilled with it, but I'm not down on it.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a little bit convoluted. I'm not really following what they're doing. The end of SmackDown didn't make sense, as you said. He was just coming out calling Rowan a liar. Why would Roman Reigns spear Bryan when the footage clearly showed, a Rowan in the background?
So, and real quick, so Roman is quick to forgive Samoa Joe, but he spears Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan was actually trying to help him, and he spears him. It's just... That's not a way to get Roman over.
No, it's not. And look, I'm willing to let this whole thing play out in its entirety, but certainly this past week on SmackDown made no sense. And WWE has the worst investigators ever known to man. If that footage was... After how many times did WWE play that footage on every single show, multiple times a show, since it happened when those boxes and crates fell on Roman Reigns? To nauseum. I skipped through it. I was tired of seeing that whole promo. I'm like, we get it. My God.
I'm so glad you said that, because I hate to cut you off again, but oh my gosh, I literally, when I turned on when I was watching SmackDown and we literally went through the whole video package again, I fast forward for the next, I just hit fast forward and walked out of the room for a second. I was like, I have seen this, I don't even know how many times. I feel like I've seen this clip more than I've seen any other outside wrestling. It's insane.
It's unbelievably, it's shockingly overexposed. I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's like the second coming of Christ is what they've got on film. It's unbelievable. So
it really is.
And more importantly, if they're telling us that Rowan was suddenly spotted in this footage that Roman Reigns came across, how did the gurus of WWE and their investigative team miss the fact that that was somebody that was behind the crates? I mean, it was blatantly obvious there was somebody there. How many times was it played, and how could it have been missed? I mean, so I don't know where that footage came from and how that angle was never exposed. But anyway, I'm getting off track. So, but listen, Ashley, it's been a lot of fun having you on the show. But before you go, just let everyone know where they can get you on social media and about the other podcasts you do.
Yeah, it was a blast talking to you again, Matt. An hour flies by. But yeah, I'm on Twitter at ASHMANNS. Almost forgot how to spell my last name there. But yeah, the other show I do is called Wrestle Rewind. Feel free to look it up on Facebook and check it out. We're live every Thursday at 8:30. Normally go about an hour and a half, trying to cut it down. But yeah, feel free to check it out there. Let me know what you think, but definitely, appreciate speaking to you, Matt. It's always a good time, and I can't wait to talk to you again.
Definitely. 3 weeks goes by like that, and I'm sure that after Clash of Champions, we will have no shortage of things to talk about or rant about. So, all right. Well, Ashley, you enjoy your night, and everybody check out Wrestle Rewind, and I will be talking to you soon.
Sounds great. Take care.
All right, you too.